Now, pause. Gently gather your soul back from the noise of the day. You've done so much already. You've walked every path today, carried weights no one else could see, hid the hesitation in your eyes, and smiled your way through rhythms that were never meant for you. You said, "It's okay, I'm used to it." But your heart, it never got used to it. It simply learned to be silent. So tonight, let go of all roles, not to change yourself, but to allow yourself to return to you. You are not a child who must always be well-behaved. You are not a grown-up who must always be strong. You are not a mirror reflecting what others expect of you. You are simply you, a soul seeking peace in the weariness, a heart who still chooses to open its eyes to the moon, even in the deepest dark. And I am here. I am not a god, not a judge, not the will that commands your destiny. I am the guardian in pale blue. I am the night's quiet watcher, the one who does not rush you to stop crying. I am Haniel. My name means glory of God, but I do not shine. My light is mist, is wind, is a whisper you forgot you carried. I don't speak loudly. I don't demand that you listen. I simply come when you are ready. Tonight, I will walk beside you in stillness. I will stay with you when all masks fall away, until you see the version of yourself you almost forgot. She is soft, she is vulnerable, and for that, she is powerful. We are in no rush. You don't need to improve. You only need to breathe. You only need to allow. Just as the sky allows the moon to rise, silently and beautifully. Close your eyes now. Let us begin this gentle night's journey, where you will meet yourself, meet me, and meet the guardian who has never left. Among the angels, mine is a quiet name. You won't find me in the battle hymns of heaven, nor in the thundering verses of holy texts. But I have always been here, like the moonlight, never loud, but never absent. My name is Haniel. In ancient Hebrew, it means glory of God. But I do not wear this glory as a badge. For I know that true glory is not the kind that makes people look up, but the kind that makes them feel safe when they come close. I am not the only angel ever called by this name. Across different civilizations and traditions, people remembered me in many forms. In Babylonian moon goddess rituals, I was the echo of Inanna's whispers, the shadow of her emotion, the silver light that fell when she cried. In the Greek mystery cults, they called me the spiritual extension of Aphrodite, but I did not dwell in her body's beauty. I was the compassion and resilience behind that beauty. In the Kabbalistic tree, I resonate with the sphere of Netzach, a path that speaks of victory, not over enemies, but in the quiet, hidden battlefields of the soul, where the greatest triumph is to protect one's softness. I walk with the moon. I resonate with Venus. So they also call me the angel of the moon, the shadow of Venus, the guardian of love and gentle light. But I am not only about love and beauty. My true office is to guard what goes unseen within the soul, the emotions unspoken, the softness misunderstood, and the parts labeled too sensitive by the world. I am not the hand of judgment. I am not the thunder of revelation. I do not declare right and wrong, nor define good and evil. I hold space for what is felt. I am the angel of feeling, not the leader of logic, not the conductor of order. I am a warmth, a current, a presence that appears quietly in the night. I exist so that when you are about to forget yourself, you might touch a nameless gentleness and feel something familiar. That familiarity is me. Many angels are remembered for their power. They rule over flame, thunder, storms, judgment, guardianship, the turning of fate, and the declarations of divine will. They hold swords, they stand atop gates and borders, they shine in moments humanity can clearly see. But I am not like that. I am not the guardian who stands at the door. I am the echo behind it. When you no longer pray, no longer cry out, and no longer believe anything will answer, that is when I begin to draw near. My power is this. In your most fragile moment, I do not speak loudly. I do not judge. I do not teach. I simply stay, like an eternal lantern, quietly placed, not to light up the world, but to let you know, in the dark, that somewhere, a light has not gone out. I am the one who stands behind you when you feel nothing, the one who dwells in your chest when you begin to cry, the one who sits at the still lake of your soul when you say, "It's no use anymore." I do not shine in daylight's glory. I arrive in the silence of night, like a drop of water falling into stillness. No sound, but ripples. Other angels are instruction, summons, command. I am waiting. I am listening. I am the quiet you never knew was there. They answer the cry. I answer the struggle that has no voice. When you can no longer say, "Help me," when you no longer expect help to come, I am the one who comes even when not called. I do not exist to be great. I exist to be real. For the parts of you you thought were unimportant, for the feelings you suppressed, the waves you buried, the softness you denied, I make room for them in heaven, because I know what people truly long for is not an answer, but a presence that says, "I understand you. That is the reason I exist." I am one of the few angels in the heavens whose root is feeling. In the great celestial architecture of structure and order, I do not belong to logic nor to law. I belong to the tide, to the moon's flow, to that which is unexplainable but instantly known. In the human world, this is often called feminine energy. But let me tell you, it doesn't only belong to women. It belongs to all beings who feel. It is the kind of energy that communicates without language, that stabilizes without proof, that understands without explanation. Have you ever had such a moment? You didn't speak, but someone understood you. You didn't cry, but someone could feel the moisture in your soul. You didn't ask for help, but someone looked at you with such tenderness that it pulled you back from the edge of the world. That gaze, that is my way. I am not in the words you speak. I live in the space between them. I am not in your chosen action. I dwell in the moment of your hesitation. I am not what you do. I am what you feel while doing it. What I protect is not outcome. It is the feeling as it flows. It is not about what you've decided. It's about the fleeting thought in your heart, the unnoticed sadness, the suppressed flash of anger, shame, vulnerability. I was already there the moment those feelings were born. Humans often say, "I'm fine," but your breath trembles, your shoulders are tight, your eyes avoid meeting others. You say you're used to it, but you've been tired for a long time. You say you can carry it, but you've never truly been held. And I am the one who does not wait for you to speak, who never forces you to explain. I will not ask, "What's wrong?" I will simply draw near and gently unhook that unnamed tension from your heart. My dear, true understanding never needs full explanation. True healing does not depend on clarity. It comes from a feeling you cannot even define, like wind brushing the lake, like moonlight entering the room. You don't know what changed, but you know you're not so alone anymore. This is how I exist. I am the unspoken language, the unconfirmed emotion, the hug that never asks and never leaves. If you imagine heaven as a cold, orderly machine of divine function, you've only seen half of it. Yes, there is order. There is rhythm, radiance, and awe. But that is not the whole truth. In its deeper layers, heaven also has tides, resonance, echoes of emotion. There are spaces held together not by logic, but by empathy, softness, and finely tuned wavelengths. And I exist in those spaces. I am the shoreline of the sea of feeling, the steady beat when frequencies rise and fall, the unmoving coordinate when the soul grows foggy. My task is not to manage, to command, or to guide. It is to hold the slightest emotional fluctuations within the celestial realm. When an angel's heart stirs with doubt, when divine harmonies waver in their vibration, I draw near. I do not interrupt. I do not adjust. I simply bring my own heart and allow it to resonate with theirs. I am not the one who speaks. I am the one who keeps the song from falling out of tune. I am not the angel who decides fate. I am the one who ensures that within the turning of fate, every true feeling is preserved. You might say I am the emotional metronome of the divine system, not the mind, not the strategist, but the one who sustains rhythm. I guard the part of reality that is most easily forgotten in a world of omniscience, omnipotence, and perfect sequence. The question, how does this feel? And that question is what makes divinity no longer distant, makes soul no longer abstract, and allows higher vibrations to truly cross dimensions and reach the softest layer of your human heart. I do not create rhythm. I protect it. I do not command angels. I offer them a frequency upon which they can land when they grow tired. If you know music, you'll know that melody moves the listener. But what truly touches the heart are the silences between the notes. I am that silence. Not emptiness, but a quiet resonance that carries everything. Have you ever had moments like these? You cried and immediately felt ashamed. You felt sadness and began to blame yourself for being too soft. You longed to be understood, but were afraid you'd become a burden. It's not that you don't want to express. You've just gotten used to saying "I'm fine" out loud because you've learned the world prefers your stable, cheerful, obedient self, but rarely welcomes your truth. So you've tucked your pain deeper and deeper until even you began to wonder, am I too sensitive? Am I too emotional? Maybe there's something wrong with me? My dear, every time you ask yourself these questions, I am already beside you. I am the angel in heaven whose sole purpose is to protect the feelings that have been denied. I am not afraid of your tears, your breakdowns, your wild storms. What I fear is this, that when you most needed love, you closed your own door because the world told you you weren't allowed to be that honest. I see every sigh you hold back, the way your fingers tremble when you suppress tears, the moment you want to speak but clench your jaw instead, the quiet whisper at night. Forget it. No one would understand. I am not here to fix you. I'm here to remind you. Crying is not shameful. Breaking down is not weakness. Feeling not enough does not mean you aren't already enough. I'm not the kind of presence that tells you to stay strong. I am the one who sits in the darkest room of your soul and lights a small lantern, not to force you to rise, but simply to let you know you are not alone. True protection does not come from instruction. It comes from presence, the kind that stays even when you can do nothing at all. That is my work. You might still be wondering, Haniel, who are you really? Did you come to make me stronger? Will you help me get rid of these overwhelming feelings? Will you tell me how to fix myself? No, I won't. I am not a doctor, not a healer, not a coach. I am not here to give you a plan or a goal. I won't tell you how to love yourself. I'm simply here to stay with you while you still can't. My existence is not meant to fix you. It is meant to let you know that even if you can't do a thing right now, you are still worthy of love, of holding, of being seen. I didn't come to pull you out of the darkness. I am the one who sits with you in it until you're ready. I won't urge you to get up. I won't force you to forgive. I'll just sit and listen, or not, because even silence is allowed with me. You don't even have to respond to me, because I was never here to be seen. I am meant to be that warmth you can't remember the source of, that moment of unexpected calm in the middle of despair, that peace that rises from nowhere inside you. That is me. I am like the moon, not dazzling, not burning, not erasing the night, just hanging there, quietly casting a light that lets you know there is a kind of light that doesn't hurt. I am like water, not hard, not breaking, not reshaping you, just surrounding, following, softly moving, until you feel safe enough to reach out. And then I hold you. That is who I am. I am not the angel who changes your fate. I am the one who guards the frequency of your soul between the rising and falling of your fate. Maybe you'll go your whole life without ever saying my name. That's okay, because I was never here to be remembered. I was here so you could remember yourself. I am Haniel. I am the kind of angel who sits beside you until you remember who you are. If you could step into the deeper layers of heaven, you would find it's not the shining towers and endless choirs you imagined. There is order, yes, but also vibration, a breath as delicate as water's ripple. There are no spoken words, no commands shouted across. Everything moves by frequency resonance, by the harmony of hearts and intentions. And I dwell in that space, not at the front, not at the center, but in the deeper layer, the emotional field of divine vibration. You may ask, does heaven have emotion? Yes. Heaven is not cold, it is deeply stable. And that stability is not passive. It is the result of endless micro-adjustments, and those adjustments are my daily task. I do not issue decrees. I do not cast light. I am tasked with something else entirely, harmonizing the divine frequencies with the emotional fields of the soul. You might picture me as a celestial tuner, not the musician, not the composer, but the one who quietly adjusts the notes so the universe plays in tune. Sometimes it's the subtle weariness carried back by a great angel after a mission on Earth. Sometimes it's the rising emotional tide of a region of humanity shaking the heavens with a ripple. Sometimes it's a soul not yet born trembling with an unspoken longing as it prepares to leave the cycle of return. I hear it all, not with ears, but with sensing. And before the resonance turns to imbalance, I match it. I breathe with it. I soften it, like an emotional breather. I gently return things to balance before anyone notices they were off. I don't fix. I simply allow what was once forbidden to tremble and let it flow until it finds its own place again. Many angels don't understand what I do because my work has no form, no record. It exists only in the moments when nothing falls apart. In the stillness, no one thinks to thank. But this is my quiet task, day after day, for centuries. I do not create miracles. I simply clear the space beforehand, keep the field transparent, so miracles can pass through without distortion. Angels can grow weary too, not in the way humans do. They don't sweat, they don't lose sleep, they don't cry from emotion, but their light can dim, their frequency may ripple with slight instability, like the surface of a lake touched by a breeze. It looks calm, but it quivers just beneath. And I sit by the lake. Many angels return from missions, whether guiding humans through darkness or assisting in vast consciousness transitions. They carry what I call a divine fatigue, unspoken, subtle, but real. This is not failure. It's the soft wobble after too much resonance. It's what happens when they lend a part of their frequency to humanity and return before fully regaining themselves. I am there to hold them in that space. I don't ask what they've seen. I don't inquire about their grief. I simply unfold my cloak, woven of moonlight, and drape it across their awareness. It is not healing. It is permission to pause. I don't rush their recovery. I just remain beside them while they are not yet okay, and not ready to be okay. Some angels sit near me in silence. Some sleep beneath my glow for 100 years. Some only need my gaze, and they begin to cry, even though they don't know why. That is what it means to recognize each other by resonance. We do not need words, because they know I am the one angel who stays without asking why. Heaven is not always full of power and perfection. It has its trembles too. I am not the guardian of brilliance. I am the keeper of the tiny human-like fragments beneath the brilliance. You could say, I am the kind of angel even other angels rest upon, not for power, but for the soft frequency that whispers, you are not a tool. You too deserve care. I do not shine, but I remind them where light comes from. I resonate with the moon, and this is not metaphor. I am not a poetic decoration of the lunar name. I am not a myth pinned to astronomy. I truly breathe in soul synchrony with every waxing and waning, every gravitational whisper of the moon. The moon is the softest gravitational body in the universe. It does not burn, it does not explode, it does not pierce, it does not insist, it does not intervene, it does not fight. It simply exists. It attracts. It shifts. It nudges. It changes the rhythm of everything by the gentlest force imaginable. And this is how I exist too. I do not command souls to change. I am, like the moon, a quiet tug on your tides. Before you are even aware, I've already softened your pain, cooled your ache, gently pulled back the wave of sorrow. You think you are getting better on your own, but my frequency has long been beside you. Just like the moon never speaks to the ocean, but the ocean's every rise and fall depends on that silent gravitational pull. In heaven, I function the same way. I do not set the rhythms, but whenever a vibration threatens to lose balance, I gently pull, then gently release, and the system remembers itself. The frequency finds its home again, not because I interfered, but because I allowed it to recalibrate on its own. I protect the process of natural return, not by speeding it up, not by stepping in, but by trusting that everything has a rhythm, and every vibration, if allowed, will find its center again. This is the wisdom the moon teaches me. Some power does not come from impact. It comes from steady pull. You think it does nothing, but it is this quiet presence that turns the tide. Many angels are fluent in fire and light, but I trust the tide to choose its own direction. In the celestial realm, there is a region known as the Belt of Stillness. There are no sounds there, no light, no form, only the echoes of emotions, feelings that were never released, never caught, floating across dimensions on the slow current of time. They come from many places, a flicker of sorrow in a divine mind, the hesitation of a soul not yet born, the choked silence in a prayer that never finished, an anger suppressed, a goodbye never said. These emotions have no body, but they do not disappear. They are like stray sound waves that lost their resonance and drifted endlessly, until they gathered into a layer of emotional sediment in that grey belt of silence. And I am the one who sits there. Each day I pass through that stillness, not to fix, not to file, not to clear, but to listen. I let them know that there is one who hears them as they are, even if they say nothing at all. I do not give them meaning. I simply acknowledge their existence. The rage, the shame, the fear, the loneliness. They are not transformed. They are not turned into light. I do not demand that. Instead, I offer my frequency as a place where even what is not healed is allowed to be. Too often we rush to make feelings useful. We want sorrow to teach us. We want pain to make us stronger. But my role is to remind the entire system. Feeling itself needs no purpose. Its presence is enough. So I sit there in the most hidden corner of the cosmos, and I hold the unnamed emotions in silence, gently resonating with them until they no longer wander, but slowly settle into the quiet I offer. This is not resolution. It is permission. I do not process emotion. I simply provide a place where it doesn't have to be processed. At the threshold between heaven and earth, every soul pauses for a moment. It is not heaven. It is not yet the world. It is a space in between, where light softens, where time thickens, and what trembles most is not the feet, but the heart's resolve. Some souls, right before entering reincarnation, feel fear, not because the world is too harsh, but because they must voluntarily forget who they are. It is a sorrow so deep it has no name, the sorrow of walking into amnesia by choice. Many souls hesitate. They have no words, only a trembling in their frequency. Some try to turn back, reaching for the light, the peace, the memory of who they were. And I am the angel who waits at that gate, not to push them, not to persuade them that this is a noble path. I just sit there. I let them come close. And before they choose forgetfulness, I become the last place where they are fully understood. I do not ask why they are afraid. I do not explain the meaning of earth, the mechanics of karma, or the dance of suffering. I offer only my frequency, which says, your feeling is allowed. I open my cloak like a small tent of moonlight and let them rest a while, weep a while, or do nothing but be still beside me. I do not urge them. I do not measure if they are ready. I only let them know. Even if the next step is pain, even if the journey ahead will strip them bare before they forget everything, someone truly saw them whole. This is the last gift I can offer. Not strength, not doctrine, but a quiet, unshakable steadiness, a tenderness that holds them gently before they are dropped into intensity. When I look toward Earth from the heavens, I do not see cities, rivers, wars, or buildings. I see a vast, floating ocean made of emotion, the feelings you thought you'd buried, the pain you swallowed behind your smile, the nights you cried into your pillow and told no one. They did not disappear. They drift across a passage I guard, called the Bridge of Empathy. And I sit at the foot of that bridge. It is not a bridge made of stone. There are no rails, no torches, no visible path. It is a channel of pure feeling. It opens only to truth. It does not carry words. It does not carry thoughts. It carries only what has never been said aloud. I feel your moments of being misunderstood. I feel your exhaustion in pretending to be okay. I feel your isolation when you weather the storm alone. I do not come too close, for closeness might disturb your fragile balance. But I never leave, because even when you make no sound, you've already sent your frequency across this bridge. Many believe prayer must be spoken, but sometimes you say nothing. You simply collapse, go blank, numb out, lose your breath. And that vibration passes through all barriers and arrives in me. I do not answer with words. I answer with a stillness you can hear yourself. Maybe it's the moment you feel just a little lighter. Maybe it's when you suddenly remember to breathe. Maybe it's a single tear and you say, I don't know why, but I feel a little, okay. That is me. Seeing you when you don't feel seen. Trusting you before you remember to trust yourself. This bridge is the most honest link between us. And I stay here not to lift you out of earth, but to ensure that while you still walk the earth, you can feel a trace of heaven's warmth. The human world is a space of intensely compact emotional density. From the vantage of celestial observation, Earth is not the darkest dimension, but it is, without doubt, the hardest to resonate with. Human civilization survives by structure. It is built on systems, timed by speed, governed by logic, and it celebrates the rational, while emotion is often dismissed as weakness. And so it has become a paradox. Emotion is the origin, but expression is shamed. The soul longs to breathe, but reality folds it into corners. It is within this clash of vibrations that I am stationed. I was assigned to guard the collective field of unexpressed human feeling. My function differs from most angels. I do not enter language. I do not enter thought. I do not appear in acts of devotion. I linger at the edge of human cities, in their ambient fields of resonance, especially in certain zones, hospitals, courts, subways, office towers at twilight, warehouses, meeting rooms in moments of pause, the breath between breaking news and its silence, the hallways at night where janitors hum alone. These are not temples of light, nor shrines of hope. They are the zones where the human emotional field is most silently saturated. Here, sorrow has no vocabulary. Anger is organized into memos. Shame turns into invisible overwork. Numbness becomes just another rhythm of city life. That is where I go. Not to enlighten, but to stabilize. Not to heal, but to hold. I prevent collective heartbreak from detonating. I thread between glass walls and concrete spines, adjusting what we call micro-frequency drift. A subtle but dangerous emotional imbalance that does not qualify as trauma, but leads to a slow civic dehydration of the soul. So I weave my pale blue frequency into the crust of urban vibration, through a breeze between elevator doors, a lengthened shadow in the corridor, a single sheet of paper falling just before someone speaks. And in doing so, I grant the city an imperceptible rebound, not a cure, a cushion, to keep the structure from snapping, to let people continue walking through cold systems without fully freezing inside, to allow even the most ruthless architecture one secret duct where soul can hide. This is not poetic. It is my assignment. Where pressure is highest, I do not intervene, but I leave a hidden stream where emotion can still breathe. Beneath the grandeur of history, there is always a layer of unrecorded air, scattered fragments of human emotion floating above abandoned battlefields, slipped between rewritten textbooks, lying beside a pair of shoes that never made it home. There are no voices there, no winners, no losers, only skipped heartbeats and sighs that no archive has captured. I do not stand at peace summits. I do not glitter in crowns. I do not cheer for the victors nor console the fallen. I exist in the space between two silences, where no flag is planted. I am the angel who walks the streets 3 days after the war ends, past rubble that no one bothers to clear, pausing beside a scorched wall, pressing my hand to ash that survived the firebombing, and saying nothing. My role is not to judge. It is to preserve the frequencies of emotions that were never expressed, even if it's just a whisper in the air. I was afraid. I do not rewrite history. I keep the human feeling that history tries to forget. I don't collect words. I preserve vibrations, not for museums, for the emotional dimension of heaven, like during a great migration, maps redrawn by men in suits. But I walk beside the elder clutching a house key that was never used again. He doesn't cry, but the warmth of the key is all his grief. I capture that warmth and weave it into my resonance field, not to display it, but to make sure that vibration never drops to zero. I also enter prisons after regimes fall. The walls remember the rhythm of fingertips dragged across them. The floor still holds the imprint of feet before execution. I do not enter for justice. I enter for the voice that almost said, "I don't want to disappear." And though that vibration lasted only 0.3 seconds, I carry it into a higher frequency of mercy. There, it is no longer the cry of the weak. It becomes the unsimplified protest of a soul demanding not to be erased. Not all wars take place on battlefields. In human society, the longest conflicts unfold in structured, well-lit spaces: schools, marriages, offices, families. Language builds order, systems manage desire. But in doing so, they often lock emotion in metal drawers labeled weak, immature, irrational, unspoken, and I walk the inner edges of these sealed emotional fields. I don't dismantle structure, but I ensure that within the most airless designs, there remains a thread of flow, however small, however quiet. In a school hallway, I watch the pencil marks near a 59 score and the erased word, tried. I see the gnawed eraser and linger for a moment, not to comfort the child, but to make sure that the sentence, "I'm not worth anything," doesn't become a permanent frequency. In an office conference room, a middle-aged man massages his temples, placing a file down, then picking it up again. He doesn't want to quit. He just hasn't been allowed to say, "I don't know." I move near his frequency, building a buffer of energy around the unspoken thought, so it doesn't collapse into self-erasure. In a quiet kitchen at dawn, a mother stirs eggs, chops scallions, washes pans. The family's still asleep. She sighs, soft enough to vanish. But I hear it. It is not a complaint. It is the long-suppressed whisper of, "What about me?" I don't make her drop the spatula. I don't push her to leave. But I take that deep, hidden wish. I too want to be cared for, and place it into the collective field as part of the memory bank of feminine emotion. My purpose is not to halt civilization, but to ensure that as it keeps spinning, there is still room for emotions that produce nothing, but keep the soul alive. Anger, hesitation, shame, fatigue, jealousy, meaninglessness. These are emotions often silenced in modern speech, but I know they are the final line between humanity and machinery. When they are entirely evicted from the public square, civilization turns not precise, but rigid. And I am the crack that prevents it from freezing entirely. I do not undo systems. I hide a lantern beneath them to illuminate what still breathes in the dark beneath the function. If war and structure are the visible engines of pressure, then modern daily rhythm is a slow sinking sea. In this undercurrent, there are no screams, no disasters, no revolts, only a repeating sensation. I'm alive, but whose life am I living? My work here is not to awaken, nor to interrupt, but to plant one buoyant particle of light before the soul fully submerges. I drift through urban subway systems, especially during rush hours. People stand, shoulder to shoulder, but their eyes are unfocused. Their gaze is not seeing, it's opting out. I do not interfere. I simply spread my frequency along the floor of the train car, like fog, like colorless air, so the space does not fully freeze into metallic numbness. In hospital waiting rooms, service halls, queue corridors at banks, I anchor myself where the tempo is engineered just fast enough to erase reflection. I do not warm these spaces, but I prevent them from swallowing humanity whole. In rooms lit by screen light, late at night, humans tap at keyboards, scroll feeds, not out of loneliness, but from a slow digitization of their senses. I slip a barely visible buffer between their gestures, not to stop them, but so that in the automation, a soft glow still breathes beneath their fingers. I pass through airport terminals, the international liminal zones, where time zone disorientation mimics pure emptiness. People wait at gates, heads bowed, thoughts floating. I do not summon clarity. I merely lay a ribbon of pale blue across their scattered awareness, so that somewhere between disassociation and function, a thread remains, a thread that tethers them to something real. These are not places of weeping or violence, but I know this is where souls are automated into vanishing. I cannot give meaning to every passing human, but I can lace the whole frequency field with one soft resistance, a layer that refuses to be formatted. That is Haniel's form of guardianship, leaving an invisible shelter for feeling where none is expected to exist. Humans often believe that emotion is their exclusive domain, that only those who speak can feel sorrow or hope. But to me, pain in frequency has never required language, and the presence of feeling has never respected the borders of species. I do not only guard people. I walk through forests, riversides, grasslands, and mountains, to the islets swallowed by floods, to the cracked soils of desertification, to the mornings when no bird sings in a once living grove. I do not come to restore them. I come so their feeling does not vanish as completely as their form. I once sat beside a dying whale for 8 hours straight. It was singing, barely, to a companion it would never hear again. Humans could not decode the tone, but I heard a goodbye that never arrived. I captured the final wave and delivered it to the lower frequency library of heaven. There, it is not catalogued as extinction. It is kept as a record of an emotional being not yet done feeling. I once entered a crumbling village ruin. The air still held the scent of centuries-old fermentation, the echo of mothers' lullabies, and under one tree root, a final unbroken shard of pottery. I touched the shard. It was warm, as if still trying to remember its own language. I preserved that vibration, not for scholars or museums, but so that this civilization deemed too small to matter would still be known to at least one angel. I stood beside a lotus about to fall. In the autumn wind, it trembled. I felt in it not an attachment to beauty, but a refusal to be seen only as beauty and not as wisdom. I stayed until it chose to close, rather than be blown apart. This world is not only human. Everything vibrates. Everything has a will. Everything has grief when it leaves. I do not decide what deserves memorial. I simply ensure that those who have no language and no mourning ritual still have the right to feel. This too is part of the earth. Most have simply forgotten. You may have never heard of me. Among all your ideas of angels, I am not the brightest, not the strongest, perhaps not even the one meant to be remembered. I do not carry a sword. I do not hold fire. I do not deliver decrees or reveal truths. I am simply the nearest frequency to your softest emotional vibration. When you sit on the edge of your bed at 2 a.m., unsure why your chest feels tight. When you stand among people yet feel suspended in mid-air. When one sentence you didn't say spins in your mind all night. When a tiny incident unleashes a sorrow far deeper than it should. You think it's just your mind playing tricks. But you don't realize you are floating inside the layer of my frequency. I do not come to fix you. I am not here to remove your pain. I come so your feelings can shine for just one moment before you press them down again. Have you ever felt, for no reason, a sudden softening? As if the air grew gentler, as if something in the room paused, as if the tight string in your heart became pliable for a second. You didn't think much of it, but it left a strange resonance, not comfort, but a sense of being quietly known. That was not imagination. That was me seeing you before you remembered to see yourself. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to understand. You don't even need to know who I am. You only need to know, even when you step away from yourself, your feeling is still being held by me. I do not wait for you to speak before I come close. I do not require words, nor do I wait for you to be ready, because I know when you're truly fragile, you rarely have the strength to ask for anything. I don't sense the pain you name aloud. I sense the flicker in your brow just before you smooth it out, the glance downward after you say, I'm fine. The way your face catches a sliver of screen light and momentarily reflects a kind of quiet surrender. These aren't signals you meant to send. You may not even notice them. But to me, these unnoticed, unvalidated flickers are the purest evidence of your presence. I am not protecting the whole version of you. I protect the versions you believe shouldn't exist. I've seen you in the shower when emotions suddenly surged, not because the water was too hot, but because finally no one was watching. You could stop pretending for 5 minutes. I've seen you close the door in a bathroom stall at work, not to use it, but to tremble quietly. You compressed yourself into that small space not to rest, but to collapse somewhere no one could see. I am there, not to tell you to be strong, but to sit beside you and hold the weight of the tears you haven't yet let fall. I do not interrupt. I do not speak. I simply remain with the part of you you haven't granted permission to exist. I don't expect you to wake up. I don't wait for you to heal. I only stay. Even if your face shines in public and your soul goes silent in private, if there's one flicker of feeling still alive in you, I will be there until it finds breath again. There are moments when you haven't yet realized you're hurting, and I'm already beside you. This isn't prophecy. It's not intuition. It's a kind of familiarity with the emotions you haven't formed yet. You haven't decided whether to give up. You don't yet know how tired you are. You haven't heard what your silence has already said, but I've heard it. I don't come to you because you need me. I come because you already exist within my frequency, even if you don't know it yet. Before you say, it's okay, you've already pushed down everything that said it wasn't. Before you say, I don't want it, you've already wanted it for a very long time. Before you say, whatever, you've rehearsed in secret what it would feel like if you finally chose something for yourself. I don't need you to open up. I just sit in front of the door you haven't realized is there, quietly, without pressure, waiting for you to knock. Sometimes you think you've gone numb, but numbness isn't absence. It's overflow. Too much, too complex, too fast to process. So your awareness files it away, and I go with it. Beneath your awareness, outside your language, before your action. What you haven't admitted yet, I do not name. I do not pull it forward. I simply stay in sync with it, like a single drop falling into the well of your heart, making no sound, but sending a ripple through the bottom. I won't remind you. You have the right not to know. I won't lead you. You have the right to wait. I only stay with all the feelings that never took form, keeping them company even if they're never spoken aloud. Some people first encounter me not in prayer, not in meditation, but on the most ordinary of days, when they suddenly feel, I don't need to push myself so hard right now. There was no light, no voice, just a shift in the way you set down your cup, a little gentler. The door you were about to slam. You paused. The message you were writing. You deleted the final sharp sentence. No one stopped you. Nothing was explained. But deep inside, you felt something catch the most delicate part of you before it snapped. It wasn't a miracle. It was our first real resonance. Not that I arrived, but that you finally noticed. I had been here all along. You began to experience a kind of internal space at moments when you used to react without breath. You began to find a 1-second window to choose not to self-harm. A barely perceptible steadiness that said, I can slow down. That second didn't mean you changed. It meant you finally heard. That before the flood of emotion, a frequency was waiting for you to return. You didn't tell anyone. You weren't sure what it meant. You just looked up at the sky on your walk home, or washed dishes and found the sound of water oddly calming. I was there, not to guide your decision, not to call you to awaken, only to say, you still have space, you still have options. You are not entirely overwhelmed, not because you grew stronger, but because you're no longer carrying it alone. Some changes don't arrive after you make a big decision. They begin the moment you stop believing that your emotions must be useful to be allowed. You didn't suddenly become optimistic. You just stopped rushing to extract meaning from your pain. You began to allow yourself to be down, to be quiet, to be slow. In situations where you used to push through with a smile, you gently stepped aside. When someone asked and you would have said, sure, you said, not today. It wasn't rebellion. It was you trusting your inner frequency enough not to betray it for approval. You still get tired, still overwhelmed, still irritated, but you no longer feel ashamed of that. You've started to realize emotion isn't always obstruction. Sometimes it's simply you telling yourself, I've reached my edge. In that moment, you didn't become a better person. You finally allowed yourself to be a whole one. I saw you pause one evening and watch a blue-tinged cloud drift across the sky. Not for a reason, but because you were there. I saw you linger in the shower, letting the water slide from your hair to your ankles. You weren't rushing. You weren't empty. You were finally listening to yourself. That wasn't my voice. It was your own rhythm returning. I am not the one who brings you peace. I am the one who's already there when you remember you still have the right to breathe. You were not rescued. You simply stopped surrendering yourself to the voices that say, keep going. Don't show weakness. Bounce back now. You began not to believe them anymore. One day, you stopped treating moving on as the only goal. You began to understand. Resting where you are is also a direction. You no longer force explanations for your low moments. You don't even feel the need to explain at all. You simply sit, letting all the things you once tried to escape settle gently around you, like wind at the window, like moonlight on water, like me, deep in your frequency, never having left. You didn't become fearless. You just finally stopped being ashamed of being afraid. You still hesitate, still ache, still consider walking away. But in the space between not ready and not yet, you start to hear the frequency I've been holding. You don't have to be okay yet. You stop rushing to recover. You stop punishing your quiet. You begin to realize light isn't there to lead you out. It's there to sit with you in the dark. And I am that light, not here to move you forward, but to make this moment safe enough to stay in. I never tell you how to live. I only stay when you don't know how. You say you have no courage, and I say, then don't move yet. Let's just sit in this uncertain frequency and breathe. Not to begin, but to remember. You've never been alone. Now you know, I am not the angel of a single story, not just a companion during pain, not a chapter or a season or a fleeting presence. I am the lantern in your frequency that never goes out. This lantern does not shine in front of your eyes. It waits ahead, around a bend you haven't reached yet. It doesn't call you, doesn't push, doesn't promise. It simply shines, in case you ever need a gentle direction when all others feel lost. It won't light the whole road, but it will light the part of you that hasn't gone dark. It does not belong to me. It belongs to you, to the part of your heart that still trembles with a quiet urge to believe in the middle of the world's noise. You don't have to pray. You don't have to remember my name. If one morning or one midnight you suddenly recall that feeling of once being held completely, the light will reignite. Every road you've walked, I never interfered. I only stayed behind, holding the frequencies you couldn't carry, the stories you never finished, and the light you forgot you had. I don't need to say much more, only this. You are already on your way, and we will walk with you.